the internet. This is Scott with Serkworks Art Labs. Welcome, mad creators, to the underground laboratory where together we're going to create some awesome comics. This is Making Comics 101. This is a bonus issue. We're talking about sound effects this week. So I wanted to dive a little deeper into sound effects, and I wanted to show you a couple of ways that I create sound effects. So right now I am in Adobe Illustrator. Now hopefully this tutorial here will make sense even if you don't have Adobe Illustrator. I know there are some alternatives out there. I think Inkscape is one, and then Affinity Designer, which I do have, but I just haven't had a chance to really dive into it. But you know, for this type of thing, I think Illustrator is sort of the standard. I know it can get pricey, especially for a lot of struggling comic book artists, but I still think there should be some takeaways here, even if you're working in you know, a different program. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just starting with, this is a font. This font is called Raucous, and it is part of the Comic Maker Starter Kit, so it is free to download on my website at serkworks.com. And you know, this is just right here. This is just the Greeking type, but let's see. So I'm going to type in Kaboom with this font. Now that is with the caps lock off, and I'm going to put the caps lock on and type it in again. And the characters are slightly different, so you can switch back and forth. For instance, if I want to go in here and then put caps lock on, and you'll see the O is a little different. And then when you switch back and forth, you've got to kind of play around with the leading here. So let's see. I'm just going to adjust that a little bit. All right, so let's start with this here. Now what I'm going to do in order to edit this, because this right now, like I said, this is a font. I'm going to make that a little bit bigger here. This is a font, but if we want to change it around, we have to convert this to artwork. So what we can do is we can go, let's see, Object, and then Expand, and then we're going to click OK. And that, what that does is make that into artwork. Now we can't edit. We can't. I mean, we can edit as far as change the shape and things on this. What I'm going to do also is ungroup this. Object ungroup. So now each layer or each letter is an individual piece of artwork. But we can't change, now that we've done this, I can't come in here and select the K and change it to, you know, a different letter. It's artwork. It's no longer a font. Once you do that, you can't go back. So just something to be aware of. So with sound effects, what I like to do is, and it all depends, but I'm going to try to move these a little closer together. And also, I want to go, instead of just Kaboom, I want to have, oops, I don't know. And I'm just kind of changing the O's a little bit. We can rotate them around just so they're not, just so they don't all look the same. That looks pretty good, I think. And then I want these to be a little closer together. What I'm eventually going to do is I'm going to overlap some of these letters. But so I'm pretty happy with that. So now that we've got that, like I said, we unselected all of these, or ungrouped them. But now what I want to do is I want to group them again. So you could just also do a Control-G, and that will group them together. So now it's one piece of artwork. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here to Effect, Distort and Transform, Free Distort. Okay, there we go. Now what I can do is I can sort of grab the letters and I can just tweak it a little bit here. Slant that over like that. There, I kind of like that. That's pretty good. It's not bad. But I think it needs more than that. So what I'm going to do is first I have to expand this, because if you see these outlines, you see where you see the kind of the ghost image of what it looked like originally. If we edit it, it's going to edit what we see in blue. So what we have to do is we have to go back up here to Object and then Expand Appearance again. And that effect that we just added now is, you know, that's going to be permanent. So I want to add one other effect. So I'm going to go back up to Effect, and then I'm going to go to Warp, and then let's try Arc. And you can kind of see how it arced it. I'm pretty happy with that. I mean, we can play around with it a little bit. But no, I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm going to click OK. And again, we're going to go back up and we're going to expand this, Expand Appearance. All right, so I like the way that sound effect looks. See, it's a little more natural now. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to ungroup this, so we can go to Object and then Ungroup. And now they're individual letters. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to down here. If you look here, you can see where this is our fill color, but I wanted to change it to an outline. So now we've got an outline. I might want to go a little bigger with the outline. So if I go here to the stroke, and let's see, that's there. How about a stroke of 2? All right, so we'll keep it like that. Now we've got a stroke on all these letters, but I don't want that just to be a stroke. I want that to be the actual artwork. So what I'm going to do again is expand again. So there's a lot of expanding here. Object and then expand. And what this is going to do is going to turn that from a stroke to a fill. So the outline of that stroke is now a fill. All right, cool. So are these separate? I can't remember. Yeah, separated them. So now what I'm going to do is I want these letters to sort of overlap. So I'm going to select the A here, and then I'm going to get my eraser tool. There we go. Okay. All right, so now we already kind of see the K overlapping. I think I'm going to have the B overlapping, so I'm going to use my selection tool. I think I want the B to overlap a little bit, because I just want these, I don't want it to be just each letter overlapping each other. I want it a little bit of a back and forth, just because this is supposed to be sort of chaotic because it's a big kaboom sound. Now with this O, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go in here, just erase that. I'm going to have, with the O's, I'm going to have them overlapping each other. And do that again here. All right. Now with the M, I think I'll have the M going over the O. And so I click off of it. So there we go. I think that looks pretty good. That's pretty cool. So what we can do is once again, we can select all these, and then we can just Control G and group them. And we've got a sound effect. So pretty cool. Now, and it doesn't have to be outlined. We could have done this in black too, but I just wanted to show you the effect of having the letters sort of overlap each other. You can also go in, if you have your direct selection tool, this little white arrow, if you want to thicken, let's see, thicken some of the lines here. You know, you could go in and do stuff like that. That's kind of up to you. I don't want to do that though. All right, another way is just to draw your lettering freehand. This is something that I do quite a bit. So I'm going to go to my layers, and you can see I've got some sound effects that I've drawn here. So let me move this guy down a little bit. All right, so I'm going to go up here back to my line. I'm going to increase that to 2 points. And let me zoom in a little bit more so I can see a little better. All right, there we go. Now, the pen tool takes a lot of getting used to. It's not like your typical drawing, but basically the idea behind it is that I'm going to go to each corner. I'm going to click on each corner, and then once I have that, I can kind of pull and I can drag, and you see how that makes an arch? Same thing here. I'm going to go down here, and then once I do that, I'm not letting go. I'm pulling, and I'm making an arch here. I'm going to click on that again. I'm going to go back up here and again pull that, make an arch. Click here, go here, and then I can arch that a little bit. Just sort of repeat that process. And then once I go here, I can do the same thing and connect those shapes. So now I've got my V. Now for an O, I'm going to use the circle tool here. So I've got a circle shape. but it's pretty uniform. I don't want it to be that perfect, so I'm going to go to my direct selection. I'm going to click on it, and then if you watch the video I did on word balloons, how I kind of changed the word balloons, the same thing here. So the way we've drawn these, we've got these little points, and we can kind of pull them around a little bit, and we can just make it so it's not so uniform. If I can grab it, it doesn't want to let me grab it. There we go. So there. Now, what I'll typically do here, now that I've got this shape, I'm just going to duplicate it, and then I'm going to make a smaller version of it here, and then I can sort of stretch that out there. So there we've got my O. Now I can draw an altogether original O, or I can copy this, but also I can rotate it so it's a little bit different here. And you know, again, we can go in here so it doesn't look exactly like the one we just drawn. We can tweak this a little bit as well. You know, we can select the whole thing and maybe make it a little smaller. And then it's just a matter of going through these letters. I probably won't do this whole word, but I just wanted to show you as far as sort of the straight letters and more of the curved letters. And sometimes it can get like if I try to get this curve right here, and if I wanted to connect here and do that, it's not going to look right, unless that's the shape of the R you want. That could be a cool R, but so I need to find sort of a halfway point. So I'm going to click here, click back on there, and then I can do that and just make sure it lines up, and there we go. So it's kind of finding the middle area right here in the middle of that half circle, and then just doing that, and there we go. And we can just kind of continue this. Again, I can, if I wanted to, I could grab these two O's, grab this one here. I want this one to be a little smaller, maybe stretch it out a little more. Here we go. And make this different than the other one. And then we'll finish it off with our M, just by, again, clicking on the little corners here, and then just, oops, something happened there. Here and here, and then I'm going to turn it back this way. And the fun part about designing sound effects is just, I like to add all these little curves, and you know, some of the curves are going one way, some are going the other way, but that's how I, oops, messed that up. Go, and then, oops. I mean, you can, the good thing about this is you can easily undo it if you do it incorrectly. And there we go. And we can do like what we just did with this first sound effects we did with the font, where we can break this apart. Select this thing, and for something like this, what I would do before I break it apart, because like I said, you can't go back once you've done that, it's not editable anymore. So I can make a copy here in case for some reason I need to have that line art, like if I want to go back and make some changes. But now that I've got my copy, then I can go and then I can expand that, boom, and very easily do just what I did before, and I can go in and start. Oops. There we go. And just repeat that process and create an all new sound effect. So that's the reason why, I mean, you can see if you see how I'm doing it here, and there is a learning curve. It takes a while to get used to the pen tool and everything, but doing something like this in Illustrator versus Photoshop, for one, I can take this, if I wanted to, I could take this drawing here, because it isn't raster, it's vector, which means I could take this font, and then I can make it as big as I want. If I want to put this on a huge billboard in Times Square, it's going to be just as sharp as, you know, whereas if I try to do that in Photoshop, it's going to look all fuzzy, and it's just, you can just edit fonts and type way easier in Illustrator than you can Photoshop. And that isn't to say that I don't do work in Photoshop. I bounce around back and forth through different programs, but for type, I just don't think there's a better tool out there than Illustrator. Other than, well, I would still stand by that there's not a better tool than Illustrator, but there are alternatives that if you're not like if you are a professional, or if you're somebody who's doing art professional, it's definitely worth the investment to to go with the Adobe suite, or if you can find an older version before they went to the subscription model, that's another option. But you can just do so much. But there are alternatives. Like I said, Affinity Designer is one that I have. I just gotta practice a little more. But I'm so comfortable with this program. I don't know if I want to relearn a different program. But if you don't have this, you can take some of these techniques, these sort of vector techniques, and try them in other, whether it's Inkscape or Affinity Designer or whatever. But like I said, even without those, you kind of get the idea of how to create a font as far as the overlapping and the stretching out the letters and all that kind of stuff. And there's some danger of stretch. With this, we're kind of dealing with cartoon letters. If you've got like a standard, like a sans serif font, and you start stretching certain layers, it might not look correctly, because typically there's a certain size that those fonts are. When you start expanding them, it starts to get a little wonky. But when you're dealing with cartoon sound effects on this, you've got a little more leeway. So anyway, hopefully that's helpful. Hopefully that can help you in creating some really cool sound effects for your comic books. But yeah, that's all I got to say today. I will see you guys later, and that is all. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like what you saw and you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. Also, you can follow me at Serkworks on social media, and now you can support the work that I do on Patreon. Do you like making comics? Then go to Serkworks.com and pick up the Comic Maker Starter Kit. It's packed full of fonts, brushes, templates, and more. And best of all, it's totally free.